New on the Creation Club is the Solar Canon. It's win, lose, or draw, and the only one left alive holds the legendary Solar Canon. Do you have what it takes to claim the prize and stay in the game, or will you fold like all the rest? Weapon created by Jose McCallum Shoeburglar. Quest created by Chris Takahashi. The Solar Canon is selling for 400 credits. Is it worth it? Let's find out. The next time we visit the Commonwealth, we get the quest Burned on the River. Search the South Boston Military Checkpoint. Oh, so we have to go here again? We recall that this is the same place we went to get the Chinese stealth suit. I'm surprised they're sending us here again. As we get close, however, we see that the marker is inside the trailer, just outside the checkpoint. We recall that the stealth suit was inside the checkpoint office. Stepping inside, we see a corpse, but before we can explore...
Last mistake!
The gunners at the South Boston Military Checkpoint open fire.
This checkpoint has been designated as a safe house in case of enemy invasion. It is currently stocked with additional food, water, and ammunition. This safe house is for military personnel only. Citizens, including non-military for matters of national This message will repeat.
After killing the gunners and looting the checkpoint, we can head back to the road to explore that trailer. Inside, we find the corpse of a gunner, face down next to a skeleton. On his body, we find two notes. The first, Sarge's clue number 1, and the second, Gunner Jack's note. This corpse is labeled Jack. This must be his note. We'll start by reading Gunner Jack's note. At first, I refused to believe it. Sarge had been acting weird, sure, but everyone has their days when they're living in the crap. The 5 of us started out in the same squad. Semper Fi, band of brothers, all that and more. In a word, we were inseparable. But after I saw what he wrote, there was no defending him. Sarge has been hoarding stuff for himself, and whatever it is, it must be big. So big, he couldn't say what. Of course, now he can't say much of anything, seeing as Queen slit his throat. Because of that, all we have to go on are these clues he left for himself. Still, at least we're all working together to find it. Greed tends to be contagious, but so far none of us are showing the effects. Ace said he gave Sarge a traitor's burial, someplace where the ferals are sure to find him. He also said Deuce and Queen want to meet in the abandoned trailer off the road. Good idea. Best to keep this between the 4 of us. Oh no. Despite how much Jack loved this little brotherhood, greed did corrupt them. It's clear that Deuce and Queen lured Jack to this trailer to kill him. With Jack dead, each of them gets a larger share of whatever treasure Sarge had been hoarding for himself. To find this hoard, we need to examine the other note we found on Jack's body. This is Sarge's clue number 1. For months I've been stashing away loot, sneaking off at night, and no one suspects a thing. Not that it was hard to do. They're a clever bunch of jarheads when they need to be, but give them some rest and relaxation and their minds turn messier than a grenade in a toilet. Anyway, since it's easy to get lost in the wastes, I wrote a bunch of clues to help me find it. The first clue I filed away at the Red Rocket to the northwest of the outpost. I've got a cabinet rigged to open with a few dings. The trick is the number of times you have to sound the bell, but like Queen says, you gotta press your luck. That tattoo on her face is the only key you need. Just count the leaves and play her tune. Well, I think I see a flaw in Sarge's plan here. He apparently set up an elaborate locking mechanism to protect his clues, using a facial tattoo on one of his squad mates as the key. And then so as not to forget what he did, he wrote all of this down. But this, I think, is likely the incriminating note that Jack found, betraying Sarge's entire scheme and giving Jack all the evidence he needed to kill Sarge. Well, we need to find this red rocket. There are many red rockets all over the Commonwealth, and this one is just a short walk away. If we follow the road north-northwest from the South Boston military checkpoint, we see the iconic red rocket towering above the shrubbery off in the distance. Creeping towards the building and standing by the door, we see our quest tick marks on the other side. Moving slowly inside, we pass by a bell, and then moving into the garage. Oh, Queen is already dead. Moving closer, sure enough, Queen lies here a corpse, and on her body is Gunner Queen's note. Jack is such a dumb pogue. We all know he was helping Sarge hide the stash. He just betrayed him to save his own skin. He can say he was just following orders, but the chain of command doesn't apply to piece of trash liars. It's obvious when he's lying, too. He gets that same nervous twitch when he tries to bluff at poker. I still remember when Sarge taught us the game. Every card's got a number, even the ones that don't. Ace is the same as 1, Jack is 11, and so on. 5 cards makes a squad, just like the 5 of us. I especially like the fact that Queen's the number 12, 1 more than Jack. Which makes sense because, again, screw Jack, the guy's beneath me. Besides, even if he was telling the truth about Sarge, it doesn't take a genius to see that loot's better split 3 ways than 4. Oh, Queen. She calls Jack a pogue, but here she lies, likely killed by Deuce, not even suspecting that the loot splits even better 2 ways than 3. Now we remember from the note on Jack's inventory that the key to whatever puzzle Sarge put here was found on the tattoo on Queen's face. Taking a closer look, sure enough we see a tattoo on her face and the number 13. But wait a minute, recalling the note, it didn't say anything about the number 13. Instead, it said to count the leaves. This is a 4-leaf clover, so is the code 4? Turning around, we find a wall-mounted safe. This is likely where we'll find Sarge's next clue, and next to it is a circuit breaker. According to the clue, there is wiring in the walls that controls the lock. Using your technical knowledge and intelligence of 5 or hacker, you could also hotwire the system and disengage the lock. Now, this character does have 5 or greater intelligence and the hacker perk, so I don't have to solve this puzzle. I could simply hotwire the lock and unlock it. But that's the easy way out. Let's go ahead and do this as it was intended. To solve the riddle, we remember that Sarge mentioned something about a bell. Heading on over to the register, we find a bell on a countertop connected to a red wire. Following the red wire, it goes all the way inside the garage and terminates at the circuit breaker. What was it that Sarge said in his note? The trick is the number of times we have to sound the bell, we have to press our luck, just count the leaves, and play her tune. Well, that makes it easy. 4-leaf clover, 4 leaves, 4 dings. Heading on over to the safe, sure enough, we find it unlocked. No need to hotwire this circuit breaker. And inside, we find Sarge's clue number 2. For the next clue, I hid a safe east of here, inside a house that's painted red. Of course, once I get there, I'll need a code to open it, something that's easy to remember. And seeing as you're a godly man, Sarge, I think I'll have you look to the south for a sign. When you see it, just count the rockets pinned in the alley, then the craters holed in the moon, and then finally, the stars underneath. Rockets in the alley, craters in the moon, stars underneath. But first we need to find this red house, and thankfully it's close by. Heading northeast, we see that the marker brings us to a corpse next to a blue house. What? It was at this point that I thought maybe I have some sort of retexture mod installed that was interfering with this quest. The note said look for a red house, but this house is clearly blue. And here we find the corpse of Ace. On his body, we find Gunner Ace's note. It's gonna be real funny seeing the look on Queenie's face when we cut her out. She thinks I'm sweet on her. The loser will never see it coming. Now me and Deuce can split the loot between the 2 of us. Hopefully he can figure out these clues. Ma always said he was the smart one. The best part is he's my doggone brother. I don't care how much loot the Sarge has stashed, there's no way he'd betray me. Oh no. So Deuce and Ace killed Queen, and then Deuce killed his own brother Ace over whatever this treasure is. We find poor Ace lying here, but no sign of this safe. Moving around back. Oh! Okay, all right. You got me. Red house. And there it is. The safe requires a 3-digit code to open. With knowledge of safe locks, Locksmith 3+, you can try cracking the safe. I do have 3 ranks of locksmith, so I could attempt to crack the safe. But let's not take the easy way out, and instead try to crack this code. Now, Sarge's clue number 2 said to look south for a sign. Facing south, sure enough, we see a huge billboard. Now, what was it the clue said? Count the rockets in the alley, then the craters on the moon, and then finally, the stars underneath. It immediately becomes clear. The bowling pins are the rockets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. The bowling ball is the moon, and the finger holes are the craters. We see 3 holes in the bowling ball. And then beneath it, we see a decorative banner, and in the banner are 6 stars. 5, 3, 6. Heading back to the Red Dog House, we can activate the safe and try opening the lock using the combination. 5, 3, 6. Bingo. Inside, we find Sarge's clue number 3. I put the main stash in another safe to the north of here, in one of the buses tucked below the freeway overpass. It's taken me a long time to get everything on my list, but it's been worth it. As far as I know, Ace, Deuce, Jack, and Queen have no idea what I got hidden away. There's guns, loot, dirty magazines, and one special little blast toy I picked up at Poseidon. It's literally lightning in a gun. And the code for the safe? It's as simple as lining up the cards. This one is really easy. He gives us the order right in the note. By lining up the cards, he of course means to arrange the gunner squad in the order we find their names in a deck of cards. Ace is 1, Deuce is 2, Jack is 11, and Queen is 12. Sarge, I guess, must have, been the Joker? So that means the code is 1, 2, 11, 12. Thankfully, the map marker doesn't take us very far from here. Heading north, we follow a road until we approach a freeway near to the DB Technical High School. Instead of crossing the bridge to the high school, which is Raider territory, we can take a nearby stairway down to the freeway. I got distracted by an iBot pod that spawned inside a derelict Vault-Tec van. And while I was exploring this, I got spotted by Deuce.
Have it your way.
Sorry. Should have just run.
So Deuce was the last man standing. He killed or conspired with all of the others to kill the rest of his squad so that he could have the whole treasure to himself. A treasure that Sarge was hoarding for himself and hiding from the rest of his squad mates. On Deuce's inventory, we find Gunner Deuce's note. I found the safe, but I can't figure out the last lock. Sarge's clue said something about lining up the cards. What cards? On top of that, I keep getting this feeling I'm being followed. Maybe I shouldn't have left the clues in the other safes. I locked them both, and there isn't a scav in the Commonwealth smart enough to open them. So Deuce must have just arrived at the bus. The person he thought was following him was us. But Sarge said that the safe is inside the bus, so climbing inside, sure enough, we find a large safe in the back. The safe requires a 4-digit code to open. With knowledge of safe locks, Locksmith 4+, you can try cracking the safe. I don't have Locksmith 4+, so my only option is to try opening the lock using the combination. Thankfully, this was really easy, and we already have the answer. 1, 2, and coincidentally, the final 2 options only accept double-digit numbers. 11, and then 12. You have unlocked the safe. With that, we complete the quest Burned on the River, and we find the Exterminator's Solar Canon rifle. Does 50% more damage against mirelurks and bugs. We find a fusion cell, some of those dirty magazines Sarge was talking about, and Sarge's note. I think the squad is starting to suspect something. Ace and Deuce, the brothers, have always been doing their own thing, and Queenie just does whatever Ace says. Heck, even Jack is starting to look at me like I banged his sister. Man, it's gonna be a riot when those leathernecks find out I was getting them gifts for their promotion. Truth is, they've been working their tails off all year, and I just want to show them how much I appreciate it. Especially my pal Deuce. I owe him for saving my skin when we got hit by that raider crew. That's why I got a special present for him. I know he hates our six-legged friends with a passion, and this Solar Canon is an all-purpose bug zapper with a trigger. Supposedly, Uncle Sam contracted Poseidon Energy to build this bad boy before the war, as part of their research and development. I got my hands on it during a raid on their old lab a while back, but I kept it a secret from the others. It's dangerous, for one, and I didn't want any of the new enlistees to barbecue their hands off. Besides, a prize like this needs to go to someone who deserves it. And I can't think of anyone more deserving than my men. They've been with me through good times and bad, and it's time I reward them for their loyalty. Oh no. The whole time he was hoarding gifts for his squad. They thought he was hoarding it for himself, and so they banded together and killed him. This whole thing could have been avoided if they simply talked with him about it. Instead, they murdered him, and then murdered each other. Deuce even murdered his own brother. And the irony is that Sarge had kept the greatest prize, the Solar Canon, for him. That is a gut-wrenching Fallout quest if ever I played one. But now we've got this Solar Canon to tinker with. Examining it in our inventory, we see that it does 69 damage and 74 energy damage, and it takes a simple fusion cell for ammunition. The damage is so-so, but then again we haven't upgraded it yet, but I'm really grateful that it doesn't take a new kind of ammunition. It looks like a little metal briefcase with handles. It's got a chunky rectangular design, and when we find it, it only has iron sights. Taking it out for a spin,
You're cool. Give him hell.
it fires a bolt of energy that almost looks like a comet sailing through the sky.
Every shot counts.
And it passes right through the raiders. And it looks like critical hits set enemies on fire, as if we had killed them with a flamer. Running forward, we see their charred corpses still on fire. Now, sadly, it does come with the Exterminator legendary effect, which is a less than useful one in my opinion, but we can run around the Commonwealth to see if we can find any other versions. Heading on over to Good Neighbor and talking with Cleo, we see that she has a glow-sighted Solar Canon rifle. It's not legendary, but we could snag this for the mods if we can't make them ourselves. She also has a ported heavy Solar Canon rifle, again not legendary, but a good source of mods. So moving on over to Daisy, we find that she is selling a unique Solar Canon called Outcast, but it does 50% more damage against robots. We'll go ahead and snag that. She also has a Solar Canon Mark II, which does 50% more damage against super mutants. Sweet, so we've got three choices. More damage against bugs, super mutants, or robots. Heading to Arturo in Diamond City, he doesn't have a unique one for sale, but he does have a maximum capacity heavy Solar Canon rifle for sale, another good source of mods. I checked the other vendors here in Diamond City and went to Vault 81 and Bunker Hill, but none of those merchants had any other unique ones. So heading back to the workshop, we can explore this weapon. We don't see any unique drawings or markings on the different versions of the Solar Canon. However, we do notice that the glow-sighted Solar Canon has a swamp camo paint scheme, and the maximum capacity one has a pink hot rod paint scheme. Both Outcast and the Exterminator Solar Canon have the default military green paint schemes. To explore the mods, we'll start with the Solar Canon Mark II. This is the one I think I want to use. We see that it has two possible receivers, the standard and the max charged receiver. This receiver increases the ballistic and energy damage by 10 each. As for barrel, we see quite a few options. It comes equipped with a short barrel. There are long barrel options, and both the short and long barrels have a copper barrel option, which improves damage even more, and a ported barrel option, which improves range, recoil, damage, and accuracy, but decreases hipfire accuracy. Since this character is a sniper, I'm going to go ahead and go with the long copper ported barrel. As for stock options, it comes equipped with the full stock, and here we find the light stock and the marksman stock. These help with recoil. I'll choose the marksman for now. And then as for capacitors, we see that it comes equipped with the standard, and then we have two options, the improved or the advanced. Both of these options reduce the weapon's rate of fire. Now, it already had a pretty slow rate of fire, so sadly this is not going to be good for a commando build. It's really designed for a rifle build. Great for my sniper, but not good for my Institute character. The advanced capacitor gives us the biggest bang, so we'll choose that one. As for sights, we have reflex sights, glow sights, a variety of scopes, including night vision and recon scopes. And check out how that scope looks. It looks beautiful on this weapon. I'm gonna go ahead and choose the long recon scope. Checking out the paint section, we can choose black paint, desert camouflage paint, the default military green paint, the pink paint, and the woodland camouflage paint, both of which we saw earlier. So the versions we picked up on the merchants didn't have unique skins. They simply had one of the paint jobs available to any of the other weapons. And finally, we can apply decals to this. We find Atom Cats, Brotherhood of Steel, Enclave, Gunner, Institute, Minutemen, Railroad, and something called the Sawtooth decal. I was confused at first because I went through each of them and didn't see them show up on the actual weapon. Even when examining it in my inventory, after applying the Minuteman decal, it just didn't appear. However, when we actually equip it and examine our character wielding the weapon, we see the decal. Here's a profile view of the weapon. You can see the Minuteman decal on the very front of the gun. And isn't this thing just a sight to behold? It's beautiful. It has some sort of supportive scaffolding on the sides of it holding the thing together, and all sorts of bulbous cylinders sticking out of it. I chose the black paint scheme for this gun. The decal at the front looks a little weird, but I think that may be the ENB that I'm using. What I like best about this weapon are all of the warning labels and text that give it a lot of character. On the right side of the weapon, we see a circle beneath the scaffolding that says Weapons Research Division, something USA. I'm assuming that the part that's hidden says Poseidon Energy Weapons Research Division. At least, Sarge told us that he got this from a Poseidon Energy factory. Despite its pre-war roots, we learn from a loading screen that the Solar Canon saw some use by the Enclave sometime after the Great War before being replaced by the plasma rifle. The weapon was then stripped, and its technology was put towards Tesla armor research, making the Solar Canon a rarity in the wasteland. A nice bit of lore which explains why we don't see it everywhere. It has a caution radioactive sticker on the side, all sorts of tactical looking lines and dashes. And then on the scope, we find the text warning, this optic contains tritium. So don't hold it too close to something sensitive like, oh, I don't know, your eyes. On the other side, we see a bunch of great stuff. We see another decal, and then a big red hose that says manufactured in the USA. A source of pride, I'm sure. A collection of rainbow-colored wires stuck to the chassis with blue tape, giving it a scrappy feel, and more tactical symbols and warning labels like this triangular radioactive label. I love this scope. I can't read what the text says. It's just too faint. But there are 3 dials here, which I presume the Soul Survivor can use to focus the scope. We already know what all of the other logos look like, but the one decal that we haven't seen before is the Sawtooth decal. So going back to the shop and equipping the Sawtooth decal, we can take a look at it in third person, and whoa, it's like some sort of monster mouth with eyes and big shark teeth. And it looks the same on both sides of the weapon. Oh, that's great. I think I'll leave it like that. The other versions of the Solar Canon that we found in the shops didn't have any mods that we can't build ourselves from a workshop, so it's not like a Handmade Shotgun. Remember, the Handmade Shotgun drops either with a 2-barrel or a 3-barrel version, and you can't upgrade a 2-barrel into a 3-barrel. That's not the case with the Solar Canon. Every gun, even the legendary ones, has the same mods available to it. None of the Solar Cannons come with a unique skin, except for the Exterminator, the one that we get from the quest. It comes in the green paint with the Gunner logo, which we can place on any of the guns, but it's unique in that it has kill tick marks on both sides of the weapon. 10 on the left side and then 10 on the right side. This is unique to the Exterminator. It's not found on any of the guns, and we can't apply it from a workstation. However, it is a little bit oddly implemented. The bottom half of the tick marks are cut off, and they go beneath parts of the chassis, which means the only way that Sarge could have scrawled these on is if he took the chassis off first, which I suppose is possible. Still, it looks slightly odd. But it is unique, which is cool. Now that it's fully upgraded, we can take it out for a spin, and I had a lot of fun using this weapon. The most prominent thing about the projectile is that it is slow moving. It's not sluggishly slow, it does move at a decent rate, but it is slow enough that some enemies could step to the side to avoid the projectile. On more than one occasion, I missed a shot simply because the raider stepped away. So because of that, I'm probably not going to be using this weapon as my everyday weapon. However, this issue is not a concern for exclusive VATS usage. When using VATS, there's no chance that the enemy will sidestep the projectile. But the impact itself is amazing. The damage is split between ballistic and energy, which means that we're going to do a decent amount of damage against almost any enemy. The projectile looks like a meteor, burning a hole right through the heart of our enemy. And as we saw earlier, critical shots will set the corpse on fire as if the enemy had been burned with a flamer. When fully upgraded, it has an ammo capacity of 24, which is a pretty decent size. Since I tend to use weapons where I have to reload almost after every shot, 24 feels like a huge number to me. And I think that it fits within the Fallout world. Yeah, it does have a high-tech look about it, but not any more so than some of the other high-tech energy weapons we've found in the series, like the Solar Canon from Fallout New Vegas, for example. One downside is that it is very heavy. When we get it before upgrading it, it weighs 31.6 pounds. After upgrading it, it can weigh in excess of 40 pounds. This makes it far and away the heaviest long-range rifle in the game. Even a fully upgraded Gauss rifle is gonna weigh around 20 pounds. It weighs more than a Fat Man, than the Nuka Nuka launcher, than a Gatling laser, even more than the Junk Jet. And the quest is a huge breath of fresh air. I loved it so much. This quest was created by Chris Takahashi. You'll recall that Chris did the same quest that we went through to get the anti-material rifle. And you'll remember at the time when I reviewed it, I had some criticisms about that quest. I thought it was confusing, I didn't think it made much sense. But this quest is magnitudes better. I was enthralled by it. And the puzzles were a lot of fun. Yeah, they were all really simplistic. I'm having a hard time believing that Deuce couldn't figure out Sarge's deck of cards clue. I mean, his name is Deuce. He's hung out with these people for years, and throughout that entire time, no one has connected that they're named after playing cards? That's silly because Queenie knew. In her letter, she talked about how glad she was that she was a queen and not a jack, because 12 is higher than 11. So yeah, the puzzles are pretty easy, but I do like how he incorporated our skills and perks and special stats as optional ways to solve the riddles. Very reminiscent of how encounters like this were handled in Fallout New Vegas. And another minor criticism I would have is the tone in which Sarge wrote his letters. We're supposed to believe that these were memos to himself, but they don't read like memos to yourself. I mean, think about how you write memos to yourself. Do you sit down and write big flowery prose to yourself? Likely not. If you're trying to jot down some quick notes to help you remember some code you invented, I, at least, usually make a list or use incomplete sentences to just get the note written. I don't use the opportunity to have a conversation with myself, which is practically what Sarge did. In one of the notes, he addresses himself. He says, "Sarge, since you're a godly man," as if he was trying to explain to himself why he needed to look for a sign. So the tone of Sarge's notes sounds like a guy who's writing clues for someone else, which ultimately is what he's doing, otherwise it would be hard to get the quest to work, but from the lore of the quest, it doesn't make much sense. But aside from those small issues, I loved the little story, and I loved how it had such a bitter ending. His own squad rebels against him and murders him because they think he's hoarding loot for himself, but all the while he was saving them presents to give to them during their promotion. Oh, that is the way a Fallout quest should end. It's heartbreaking, but I love every bit of it. The Solar Canon is a wonderful addition. Well done, Shoe Burglar and Chris Takahashi. Bethesda also released 2 Creation Club updates. The first is for the Handmade Shotgun, and the second is for the Tunnel Snakes Rules creation. These updates are free to anyone who already purchased the creations. I'll briefly explain what they are. For the shotgun, there was a problem with the triple barrel version of the shotgun. I'll demonstrate it here. The iron sights were affixed to the middle barrel of the triple barrel shotgun, but because the middle barrel is so much higher than the other two barrels, it pushed up the iron sights, making it so that you couldn't hit what you were actually shooting at. Here's an example. Notice that the cluster is on the wall far below where I was aiming. Here, let me try shooting at the sign. I'll line up the sign in my iron sights, and I land far below. Let's try this on some living specimens. Let's line this bird up with my iron sights, and we completely miss it. But even keeping at the same distance, if we push the iron sights a little bit above, we get it. So naturally, this is a huge issue for players who want to enjoy the triple barrel version of the shotgun. The update completely fixes it. Here's how the shotgun looks with the update installed. Notice that when aiming, the sight appears far lower than it used to. Let's go ahead and do our seagull test again. And it works perfectly. So this is a must-have update for those who use the 3-barrel variation. Incidentally, I didn't realize this when I reviewed the shotgun earlier, but there are uniquely skinned versions of the shotguns. Here I'm using the Ghoul Slayer shotgun, and as you can see, it's got the words Ghoul Slayer written on the side. I found this from Clio. I found two versions, a 2-barrel and a triple barrel version of the Ghoul Slayer shotgun. There's also a nimble version with, again, a unique skin. On the side of the barrel, we find the words nimble with an arrow to the left and the right. And in yellow, some drawn-on wings. I found two versions of the nimble shotgun, a tri-barrel and a double barrel, one from Daisy and Goodneighbor and one from Arturo. But the one I think I'm going to play with in my gameplay is the Incendiary Tri Barrel shotgun that I found from Arturo. The Incendiary one doesn't have anything scrawled on it, but instead of green, there's a red patina all over it, almost as if it has been singed or tried by fire. The Tunnel Snakes Rules update is simple. This update simply allows the outfit to be upgraded with ballistic weave at any armor workbench. There were third-party mods we could use to get this feature, but thanks to this update, it's included for everyone who purchases the Tunnel Snakes Rules creation. There are a few more releases with this Creation Club update, but I've run out of time, so I'm going to have to tackle them tomorrow. So stay tuned for that video. What are your thoughts on the Solar Canon? What do you think of the weapon's craftsmanship? Do you like the way it feels and sounds? What about the projectile? Do you like the fact that it's a slow-moving projectile? Or would you prefer it to be more instantaneous like a Gauss rifle projectile? And what about the Quest? Did you think it was a huge improvement like I did? Or were you still left wanting? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I publish new Fallout videos each and every week here on my channel, so if you want to make sure you don't miss my next ones, be sure to subscribe and to click that bell notification button. I've got a brand new shirt in the shop, folks. Cheer, cheer, cheeriest. Celebrate your sudsy love for cola with this shirt that comes in a variety of both men's and women's sizes and in a wide array of colors. The shirt also comes on other products, smartphone cases, pillows, posters, prints, etc. So if interested, you can find a link to my shop in the description below, or you can click here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning with a brand new video.
You are so dead. Let's do this.